Everyone gets involved in property to make money, but how much money do you actually make? Well, I'm going to break down how much money I've made in my first 18 months of owning a buy-to-let property. I'm going to include some key takeaways and some actionable advice for you guys. Hi guys, I'm Jim. Along with my brother Dan, we have a small property portfolio in the northwest of England. We also help people invest into the northwest completely hands-free. This channel is going to document my learnings and experience, boots on the ground, investing into property. So if you want to grow your portfolio or learn more about property investing, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the video. So the property is located on the Wirral in the northwest of England. Now this is the area me and Dan live, and we spent all of our lives growing up here, so we know the area super well. Now it's a standard 3-bed terrace property. Now these type of properties are really typical on the Wirral. In a nice sort of full circle moment, this property is actually 2 roads over from the road me and Dan grew up on, so yeah, that was really nice for us as well. Let's go over the top level figures. So we had an offer accepted on the 14th of February 2022, a nice little Valentine's Day surprise. So we had an offer accepted for £105,100 on this property. Now obviously you have to have surveys and legal stuff to go through, so we actually didn't end up picking the keys up for this property until the 5th of May 2022. Once we got the keys, we started the refurbishment stage of the process. So we coordinated the refurb ourselves because we wanted to be involved in our first buy-to-let process. So this involved all the sort of integrated stages, we like to call it. So we were doing lots of wallpaper stripping, taking stuff to the skip, we were ripping bathrooms out, all that sort of stuff. Me and Dan were doing that in the evenings and the weekends. In total on this refurb, we spent £15,287.59, and it breaks down as follows. £1,474.97 on general building supplies. So this was running to screw fix, wicks, whatever, for your general odds and sods, and included stuff like loft insulation. So all that sort of stuff was covered in this number for the supplies. Spent £2,121.02 on plumbing labour. Now this was to install a new bathroom for us and some odd jobs around the property. We needed an outside tap doing, and we needed some little plumbing jobs doing in the kitchen. So this is all encompassing in this cost. So we spent £1,221.60 on the actual bathroom unit. Now we sourced this ourselves and we got it from Victoria Plumbing. There was a decent deal at the time, so we just decided to push the button on this and buy it ourselves. We spent £4,056 on a complete rewire of the property. This was a sort of non-negotiable. We realised this as soon as we viewed it. The property wouldn't be up to standard for renting out because the electrical installation condition report, we wouldn't be able to meet the standard for this. So yeah, everything ripped out and we needed a complete rewire of the property. We spent £2,195 on plastering. Naturally, when you've done a rewire, you have to rip up walls and all sorts of stuff. So everywhere needed a rewire, and some of the bedrooms didn't have the best finish anyway. So we decided to replaster and skim some of those places anyway to give us a nice finish once we painted the property. So we spent £1,030 on painting. So this was the whole interior of the property and the actual exterior as well. We got the front of the house painted, much to the disgust of one of the neighbours who actually complained to me, but we think it looks pretty good, and we've been down there since, and a couple of people have copied our colour scheme on the outside. One of the challenges with painting though is because me and Dan were doing this around full-time jobs, we couldn't really make the progress with painting we wanted, so this is when we decided to get a painter and decorator in who could sort of smash in 8 hours while me and Dan were at work, rather than waiting for the evenings and the weekends for us to get back there and just do a couple of hours here and there. Now we spent £461.40 on the repointing of the back of the property. This was for labour and materials as well. The back of the property looks well better now. It was in a pretty poor condition, and we think this sort of stuff helped with our EPC rating as well. We spent £725 on new carpets. This was mainly for the upstairs of the property, but we did give some of the old carpets a deep clean and they come up pretty well as well. We paid £172 for some flooring downstairs. This was in the hallway as you first come into the property because we wanted some, tough, hard acting flooring there because it gets the sort of most traffic when people come from the outside of the property to the inside. So yeah, we bought the flooring and then the installation was included in the carpeting costs as well. Spent £300 on some joinery work around the property. We needed some doors re-swinging so they'd open the other way into the bedrooms, and we also boxed in the gas main which was in the front room. We boxed it in so it's now like a bit of a unit where you can use it to put coffees, teas and TV remotes as well, which looked pretty good. £264 on a skip. Naturally during these projects you make a lot of waste, so we needed somewhere for it to go, so we had that parked outside the property for the initial couple of weeks of the refurb. We spent £149 on some maintenance on the windows. The windows were actually fine. It was just some of the locks on where you open the window were a bit dodgy, so we got some maintenance done on them. Finally, we spent £670 on some roof works. The roof was generally in an okay condition, we just needed some work around the chimney. There was some pointing out up there and it needed raking out because there'd been some vegetation growth in there, and then we actually got it capped off as well. This leads to a total of £14,839.99. Now during this time we did have some holding costs. Two things we had to pay for during the refurb were our insurance and our mortgage payment. Our insurance cost us £18.22 per month and our mortgage cost us £196.47 per calendar month. So this totaled in another £447.60 adding on to our refurb, which is where we get the 15,000 figure from. Just a bit more information about the mortgage. We got a 2-year fix with Precise and we locked it in for 2.99%. September 22 was the first month this property was officially rented out. We made a rental income of £695. Now me and Dan decided to shoot over to John Lennon Airport and do a photo shoot in a private rented plane because we'd officially made it. It was a flex. We'd made passive income. I am, of course, joking, but it was a really nice feeling given the fact that up until this stage, since February up until the September, we just felt like we were bleeding out of our bank accounts every single month because you're paying for everything. So this was the first official time that money hit our account, so it made it sort of feel like it was all worth it. If you guys are interested in learning more about property investing, we actually have a weekly investor newsletter. Now we'll go into news updates into the property market as well as going deep into the northwest as an area. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I'll make sure I drop the link to sign up to it in the description below. I guarantee you guys will get value every single Sunday morning at around 7 AM. Although we got £695 in rental income, we do have overheads to consider, and this is where things get particularly nasty for us property investors. So initially, we owed the letting agency a £250 tenancy finding fee. Now a lot of these costs are going to be the same every single month and they're going to roll over month to month, so I'll break them all down now to save me going into it in each specific month. So like I mentioned, we pay for a letting agency fee there, and they charge us a 12% management fee, which costs us £83.40 every single month. Next up is our mortgage payments, which I spoke about briefly earlier. This is £196.47 every single month. So this is typically month to month our most expensive overhead. Another thing I mentioned previously is insurance for the property, which is £18.22 per calendar month. Finally, during the refurb stage, we decided to get a 0% finance deal on the new boiler in the property. So this costs us £70.86 every single month. So all of this resulted in a whopping profit of £76.05 for September 2022. October 22. So of course we had all the standard costs, the mortgage, the letting agency fees, the insurance and the boiler. Now outside of this, unfortunately, we did have a couple of maintenance issues in October 22. Fortunately, the shower broke almost straight away as soon as the tenants moved in. So our letting agents arranged for their maintenance guy to pick us a new shower up and also install it for us. Now all of this cost us £215. Now despite this, we still had a record-breaking month in terms of profit at Dan and Jim, resulting in a profit of £111.05. November 22 is where we fell flush with cash because we had all our standard payments, but we had nothing else extra coming out of the bank that month. So this resulted in another record-breaking month and we had a profit of £326.05. Now it was at this stage, I text Dan saying, should we start looking at getting a Lambo on finance? December 22, we had a couple of changes to our monthly statements. The first one being we changed our insurance policy. Now the reason we did this is because we wanted rent guaranteed insurance. This means if anything happened to our tenants and they couldn't pay, the actual rent would be covered by our insurance company. Now this did mean it was more expensive than the £18.22 and it went up to £31.85. It wasn't much more, but we thought it was definitely worth it for the peace of mind we got. But unfortunately, we did have some minor maintenance issues again in September, which is probably typical for the winter months. Unfortunately, the stock tap in the kitchen was leaking. So the letting agency again sent their maintenance guy out to fix this problem, which cost us 50 quid. Meaning the profit for December was £261.42. Now January 23 was an all-time low for the boys. We'd been having ongoing roof issues at the property. The letting agency kept sending their maintenance guy out to look at these problems, but me and Dan weren't totally convinced he was giving us the best advice. So we actually decided to get our own roofer involved. So he installed some new eave trays and ended up giving the gutters a good clean, which seemed to stop the problem. But this cost us £287. Now after all of our standard overheads, this meant we had a profit of £25.15. Now this is barely enough to get me and Dan and Nando's, but these things happen. After the worst month, we then went on a good run. Now this covers February to June 2023. We had no other issues and everything was sound at the property, so we just had our standard standard monthly costs, meaning during this period, our profit was the same every single month, meaning we were making £312.15 every single month from February, June 2023, which was spot on. July 23, we did have a couple of issues. The hob on the oven had unfortunately broken, so again, the letting agency sent out their gas man and he installed a new hob for us, but we also needed our gas set, but they said they'd spread this over 2 months for us rather than hitting us with one big payment in for July. So swapping out the gas hob cost us £250, meaning we had a profit of £62.15 for July 23. We spread the costs across August 23 as well because we needed a new gas set, which is a yearly thing landlords have to have. So when he went to fix the hob, the gas engineer actually did this for us. We just spread the cost over the July and August. So this meant we had a profit in August of £220.15. Now September 23, there was 2 major changes to our monthly statement. We actually took the decision to up the rent. Now the market rents in the area have been skyrocketing during this period. We decided to up it to £715 per calendar month. Now this is typically 5 to 10% below what the market value is. We tend to like to do this to keep some goodwill with the tenants. Fortunately, we had some more maintenance issues. There was some mold in the kitchen, and we weren't again totally convinced that the letting agent's maintenance guy was giving us the correct information. So we sent our builder in and he sorted the problem out by doing some stuff to the rendering on the outside of the property, and this cost us £130, meaning the profit for September was £199.75. October 23 was completely back to normal. It was just our standard monthly cost, which resulted in a profit of £329.75. November to December 23, the only slight change was our insurance policy was up for renewal. Now, given what inflation had been doing over the past 12 months, me and Dan were expecting this insurance policy to skyrocket, but strangely, it actually didn't. It actually come down to £30.44, which was like saving us a quid, which wasn't any more expensive, so that was a nice win for us. Which meant the profit in November and December 23 was £331.16, which is a lovely way to round out the year. So that's all the numbers done. What are my major takeaways about this property? First takeaway is I actually think this has been a solid buy-to-let property. I know we had some months where the profit was super low at like 25 quid, but this is going to happen when you have a property. You're going to get unexpected maintenance issues. Now, if we look at the average profit per month, it's sitting at around £239.72, which is pretty much what we forecasted when we were doing our analysis on this property deal. Typically, when we're doing our analysis, we bake in 20% for voids and maintenance in the property deal. Now, although we didn't have any voids, the maintenance was a little bit higher, but overall, this 20% has been factored in, and it was around about the same number that's come out. So that'd be my key advice to people when they're doing analysis on a buy-to-let deal. Make sure you put at least 20% in for voids and maintenance, because you just don't know what's going to happen when you start owning the property. From the start, we wanted it to be hands-off, and we wanted to get a letting agent in so we could focus on growing our portfolio building business instead of managing the property. We decided to go for a smaller letting agency because we wanted that personal service and a bit of a more boutique style rather than like a corporate high street chain where you're just another number. Now, the challenge with this is this letting agency was actually set up off the back of the landlord growing a super big property portfolio, sort of setting up his own letting agency, which is actually something we want to do at some point when we get big enough. That's how his letting agency started. Now, we sort of feel like the letting agency are always sort of going to favour his properties over ours, which I suppose is pretty natural, but maybe we made the wrong decision in going for the smaller boutique one. So my advice here is definitely speak to as many people as you can. Letting agents tend to be a bit of an art. If you can find a good one, I'd definitely keep hold of them, but speak to as many people as you can in your area. Ask to speak to their landlords to see what the service is like, because generally it seems that some of them aren't that good. So it's definitely worth spending the time up front to try and find a super decent one, because they should, in theory, make your life easier. But again, this is where me and Dan are considering bringing this in-house, particularly for our own, and our investors actually like the idea of us being involved in the ongoing management of their properties in the northwest of England. Now, probably the biggest issue we've had with the letting agency was some of the maintenance issues weren't actually resolved that well. Me and Dan lost faith with the bigger maintenance issues from the letting agency sort of after the first couple of instances. The instances like the shower breaking and the stop tap, they were really good. They'd send someone out super quick, super easy, but they seem like they're known fault and it's super easy to fix them. I think where we found the maintenance guys aren't that great is when they have to do any fault finding, particularly around like the roof and the mold in the kitchen. They're not that astute when it comes to that fault finding stuff. So we actually started engaging our own trades to get those jobs fixed. Now, this does feel frustrating because we are paying the letting agency 80 odd quid a month to manage this process for us, but we want to make sure that the property gets looked after and the right stuff gets done. And we don't want to end up wasting our money on the wrong solution to a problem because their maintenance guys misdiagnosed the issue. So the key takeaway here is I think definitely still have your trades lined up, bounce ideas off, even if you can send them a text or a picture of the issue and get their thoughts on it, because you shouldn't just blindly trust the letting agent's maintenance guy because he might not be, a specific roofer or, know stuff about damp issues, so engaging your own team is going to be useful there. Other costs to consider. Now, I've just taken this property in isolation in terms of its individual performance, but if you own this in a business and a limited company, there's going to be other taxes and other business admin costs you're going to pay, which could impact the overall profit of the business. So this stuff is definitely worth considering when you're growing your portfolio. You need to speak to an accountant about what's the most effective way for you to do this, because although it's more expensive to do it within a limited company, long term it might be the best solution, particularly if you're going to be aggressive about scaling. Whereas if you own it personally, all of your profit might just get wiped out in tax anyway, and you might actually end up owing the government some more money from the deal. So the big takeaway here is make sure you've got the right company structure and always speak to an accountant before you invest. No issues with the tenants or the area. One of the biggest reflections we've had is the fact there's been no issues with the tenants or the area, so this definitely proves the concept for us that this is one of our goldmine areas and we're looking to aggressively scale it. I think the key takeaway here is when you're looking at buying a property, just treat it as a test. Let's see how it works, let's see how the dynamic goes, let's see what the tenant demographics are like, and then after that, after maybe 18 months, you can see what it's like, and then you can then start aggressively scaling up in this area. Thanks for watching, team. Let me know your thoughts about my first 18 months as a buy-to-let landlord, and if you think it's good money, bad money, if you thought I'd make more or you thought I'd make less. Do you think it's worth it? There's an interesting conversation to have. Drop them all in the comments below. Don't forget to sign up to our email newsletter. The link will be in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.